Hello and welcome. As the August 1st tariff deadline looms, President Trump's sweeping trade offensive intensifies, rattling global markets and major economies from Tokyo to Brussels. New tariffs imposed on allies and adversaries alike, including Japan, South Korea, Brazil, and even Lesotho. The US is imposing steep duties on billions in imports, sparking fears of a retaliatory spiral. The EU scrambles for a last-minute deal, while BRICS mulls expansion as a counterweight. Supply chains tremble, inflation risks mount, and nations caught in the crossfire from Asia to Africa weigh survival strategies amid a deepening trade storm. Welcome to Think Tank.
Our world is becoming unhinged.
Welcome to the program. The New York Times has reported that President Trump has reignited his aggressive trade strategy, notifying at least 22 nations that steep tariffs ranging up to 50% will take effect on August the 1st unless new bilateral deals are struck. This move marks a sharp escalation in the trade war, targeting allies and adversaries alike from Japan to Brazil. The latest salvo includes a 50% tariff on Brazilian imports, framed by Trump as retaliation for the witch hunt against President Bolsonaro. His administration has also expanded the list to include countries like Iraq, Brunei, and the Philippines, signaling a widening global trade conflict. Experts warn that these tariffs could backfire, hurting American consumers and businesses reliant on imported goods. With minimal progress on securing trade agreements, Trump's executive order delays the original deadline, but the looming threat of retaliatory measures threatens to further destabilize global markets and deepen economic uncertainty. Now, according to the Financial Times, global markets remain remarkably calm despite President Trump's aggressive tariff threats, with stocks hitting record highs and volatility near yearly lows. Investors appear unfazed, dubbing the trend the taco trade, betting that Trump will ultimately retreat from economically damaging policies, as he did in April. The S&P 500 and tech giants like Nvidia surge, while bond and currency markets show little panic. Traders believe Trump may delay or soften tariffs to avoid harming U.S. growth. The warn complacency could backfire if he escalates further. Analysts caution that record valuations leave little room for error, especially with historic tariff hikes looming. While markets bet on a policy retreat, the risk remains that Trump's trade war could intensify, shaking investor confidence sooner than expected. So, as Trump's tariff tsunami nears, global markets tremble. With August 1st looming, nations brace for economic upheaval from Asia to Africa, then South America. Alliances shift, and the world edges closer to a new trade order.
The world stands at a crossroads. As August 1st looms, President Donald Trump has unleashed a new wave of tariffs, targeting over a dozen nations, including Brazil, Japan, South Korea, and Lesotho, sending shockwaves through global markets. Trump's latest salvo is more than just economic policy, it is a geopolitical gambit. With tariffs set to rise up to 36% on some countries, analysts warn this could ignite a full-scale trade war. From Asia to Africa, governments scramble to respond. South Korea and Japan, two of America's largest trading partners, face a 25% tariff hike. Both have initiated emergency talks in Washington. Japan vows to retaliate through WTO channels, while South Korea accelerates tech partnerships with ASEAN nations. Meanwhile, smaller economies like Lesotho are already sounding alarms. In Lesotho, where textiles make up 80% of exports, Trump's tariffs have triggered a state of disaster. Youth unemployment surges as factories scale back operations. Back in Brussels, the EU races to negotiate a deal before the deadline. But behind closed doors, contingency plans for retaliatory tariffs are already being drafted. As tensions rise, BRICS offers an alternative. With expansion underway, emerging economies explore deeper integration, from India to Indonesia, bypassing US-led trade systems. India walks a tightrope, balancing Trump's demands with its growing strategic alignment within BRICS. Its $150 billion trade surplus with the US hangs in the balance. At home, American consumers brace for pain. Analysts predict a 10% price surge on electronics, apparel, and auto parts by mid-August if no deal are struck. This is not just about tariffs. It's about alliances, leverage, and who will shape the next era of global trade. As August 1st nears, the world watches and waits.
Now to talk us through Trump's new tariffs, from California, we're joined by Dr. Ashraf Singer, an international relations expert, and from Washington, Ginger Chapman, a lawyer and political analyst. Thank you very much, both of you, for being here with us on the program. I'll start with you, Dr. Singer, and we'll start with yes. Europe. The EU are trying their hardest to strike a deal before August 1st. They're under pressure to do so. Do you think Europe is moving closer to Washington? Is it likely to get done, or will they be quietly preparing countermeasures?
Yeah, Europe under huge pressure because of Trump policy, particularly in tariffs and the other issues now. But Europe is making a very balancing situations between United States and the rest of the world. In other words, what I'm seeing Europe is really backing United States. Europe doesn't like, to make that kind of big separations and moving away from the US. They understood, or they understand clearly that, to control the international politics, they need United States on their side, and United States needs EU in its sides too. So both of them, they need each other. This is good for both of them. But unfortunately, what the number of messages that Europe received from Donald Trump since he took the office, of course, is not optimistic at all. But EU showing now currently the backup policy in case of United States doesn't reply positively what the EU really expecting from United States. They need really to find a mini deal, not really big deal or max deal, to avert that disturbed policy by Donald Trump. In other words, need to prepare internally what is the best policy for EU to came up with some new channels, particularly WTO, Asian, BRICS. But I'm very concerned about that move also from EU, whereas BRICS particularly, where China is making like a big situation, or the leading BRICS, as Donald Trump sees, BRICS is a potential challenge. And I can understand what is the retaliation from United States towards Brazil, because of Brazil just hosted, the BRICS meetings over there. So probably Trump is pretty heating up the issue with Brazil now for many reasons. But of course, Trump doesn't like and doesn't really hear any news from BRICS, because BRICS actually is the potential challenge for the United States in coming years, particularly in trade and economy and international trade and so on.
Okay, well, we're going to come back to BRICS in just a few moments. Ginger Chapman, I'll come to you. Trump, of course, saying that if you don't get a trade deal by August 1st, it's going to be 50% tariffs across the board. He's insisting there'll be no extensions beyond August 1st. Are there any mechanisms that could challenge this or delay the implementation of these tariffs? Will the WTO will have something to say about it, perhaps?
Yes. Well, thank you, Mark, for having us today, and greetings to your viewers and your other guests. And as we've seen, the tariff wars, trade wars are roiling the American and global economic markets. This is mainly due to the uncertainty. And as you just asked, is there anything that could extend or stall this deadline? And what we've seen is Trump himself keeps extending these deadlines, and this has created more uncertainty than the tariffs initially created when he first announced his new strategy of unilateral, bilateral trade deals. And essentially, these letters that he is sending out are saying, we are imposing these tariffs. You have until August 1st to negotiate. If you do not negotiate, they will go into effect. And this is an example of, once again, Trump bringing the old world, Bretton Woods, post-World War II economic order, and instead of trading blocks, negotiating with each other, Trump is reverting to bilateral trade agreements. This mechanism may minimize the effect of trade wars. However, what we are seeing is that BRICS is responding antagonistically to these tariffs. And this is because some of Trump's tariffs are actually weaponized, as we've seen with Brazil. The 50% tariffs are to protect Jair Bolsonaro, who is on trial. Bolsonaro is a close political friend of Trump's. So hence these 50% punitive tariffs. We've seen Trump threaten Israel for prosecuting Netanyahu in his criminal trials. And we've also seen Trump extending punitive tariffs to companies or countries that buy oil from Iran. So some of these tariffs are punitive, they're punishment, they're to influence foreign policy, but the bulk of the tariffs are based on trade gaps, trade deficits, and Trump has this simple formula where he's merely trying to close the gap without other considerations. And yes, this is roiling our stock markets. However, our stock markets now seem to have Trump fatigue, tariff fatigue. They're no longer reacting, but instead they're focusing on things like tech stocks, IT stocks, corporate earnings, and everyone is just waiting to see what is going to happen. But the uncertainty around this massive restructuring of trade agreements, international relations, is, of course, a very massive wave, an economic wave, and no one really knows what to expect at this time.
Yes, of course. I mentioned Trump's nickname that he's been given, Taco, which means Trump always chickens out. And I think that's probably where the markets are thinking. They're thinking that he won't spook the bond markets again like he did last time. We'll have to see what happens with that. Dr. Singer, I'll come to you. As Japan and South Korea are bracing themselves for 25% tariffs, does this mark a shift in the U.S.-Asia strategic ties? How will they likely react, do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying, to understand the Trump model till now, because that policy actually, it's really checking the status quo for the friends and for the rivals. I can understand that policy can be really work great against rivals. This is okay, this is fine. But the Trump approach to Japan and South Korea actually is reflecting a kind of a high degree of uncertainty. Particularly, you need these guys over there. The rising of China, of course, will challenge, the domination of the United States over time. So So this is, yeah, it's clear that that situation is we understand clearly that in the right hand that we have like lottery or the security and alliances. The left hand we need really to watch the trade and the trade relationship over time, and the best course of action that we need really to bring these guys together, that you can really execute a very rational policy. It seems to me like Trump has different model. I'm trying, to understand what is really his model will achieve, particularly if he really giving that degree of uncertainty towards the alliances like Canada, South Korea, Japan. Trump actually first asking, these guys demanding like increase the defense spending, and he asked from Europe to or from Atlantic, members to move their spending or military spending budget to 5%. Now he asking, for that from Japan and South Korea. But these guys, they are not really member of NATO, but they have another form of alliances with the United States. And basically, if Trump really threatening this guy by that degree of tariffs or changing that policy, will create like a high degree of uncertainty among the Asian alliances, and of course that approach of course will not help Trump in his policy against China, because you need really to make sure that you spend and invest many years to build that good and strong relationship with Japan and South Korea. I think Trump policies may can really gain like in or win in short term gains, but risk long terms is coming, where United States leadership in Asia, where the future of United States leadership in Asia. This is the main point. Everyone is really watching Trump policy and try to understand is gonna to win or is gonna to lose. But there is a huge doubt what is next from United States towards the alliances before the rivals.
Yes, I mean, we could be back into trade war territory, couldn't we, Ginger Chapman? If countries start to put on retaliatory measures and it becomes a tit for tat, whether Japan or the EU, we end up with a situation like we had with China, where they end up with 200% tariffs or 150% tariffs in the end. Where would we be then? Can you see this happening and is going down that road, Ginger Chapman?
Yes. Well, Mark, your other guest makes a very important point as far as what is Trump's strategy, what is his model. And we see some of this chaos is because Trump is trying to accomplish too many things through tariffs and sanctions as well. Trump is using this economic tariff sanctions as leverage to achieve his foreign policy goals. We see when he tries to wrap up opposition to China's Belt and Road. China's trying to create alternative overland trade routes. We see the opposition to the de-dollarization. Trump is threatening tariffs against countries that participate in the de-dollarization, the dollar as a reserve currency. This is directed specifically towards BRICS. And Trump is also wrapping up national security issues. For example, the 50% tariff on copper. He says that's tied to national security, defense. We use copper in many of our military and industrial applications. Also, the tariffs on pharmaceuticals from China. This is a very critical issue for the United States. We obtain most of our pharmaceuticals from China and India. So during the COVID emergency, we realized what a critical issue this is. But of course, using tariffs and sanctions to accomplish our foreign policy goals runs the risk of backfiring. As your other guest mentioned, the global economic ripples could actually undermine our trading and our trading partners and our allies. A very good example, your other guest mentioned Japan, and more specifically, the European NATO countries. Trump is pushing them to increase military spending to 5% of GDP. This will be unattainable for many of these countries, especially if these tariff wars begin to negatively impact their economies and their own government's discretionary spending. So the global implications of these trade wars, these tariff impositions, could be very far-reaching in ways that are beyond just economic, that can actually undermine the social welfare spending and well-being of other countries. So, and once again, Trump is engaging in this unilaterally. So this creates another risk for the United States in that Congress normally negotiates and ratifies our trade deals. So Trump could also be leaving a very large international legislative mess for whoever the next president is and for the next Congress. So Trump's imposition of these tariffs, the way he's imposing them unilaterally, and also the reasons for foreign policy goals in addition to our economic goals, this creates more chaos and more disorder. It muddies the waters by introducing foreign policy into what should be clean economic decisions. So this does have the potential to spiral out of control globally. And the only thing that is slowing the pace is really Donald Trump's his negotiating style, whether or not he extends any further deadlines, and really the responses of other countries as these letters begin going out.
And coming to you, Dr. Singer, let's talk about BRICS then, shall we? How might BRICS expansion serve as a viable alternative for developing economies that are being targeted by tariffs?
BRICS actually, it's making now like a huge transitions after Indonesia, joined, that group. So that group, that degree of diversity, it's pretty awesome, in terms of, reflecting, or in terms of reflecting, like developing nations as adopted, their membership to expand or to find new ways of what we call it a pragmatic strategy towards that policy, particularly from United States coming on time with that threatening, or that level of threats for the tariffs level, which reached, of course, many of the member of BRICS like China and India and other regional power there. But for their economic and their improving their level of political ties and diplomatic ties, BRICS will help, of course, these guys to build like a block or a wall against that kind of tsunami is coming from United States. For countries like Indonesia and other countries in Africa and Asia and Latin America, yes, BRICS offer like many advantage or many ways that they can really improve their economy. For first of all, like access to alternatives, financing, and this is very important and crucial for their countries, their developing goals through the like institutions, build like the new development bank. But one of the major problems they need really to solve it is still making that huge obstacle for BRICS to be like an optimal solutions that they didn't find as other than the dollar. So still the dollar is dominant in terms of their transactions. So they need really to find a new currency can really be accepted among all of the countries inside the BRICS and outside the BRICS. But unfortunately, they didn't really reach to that point of making the dollar. So still the Western, if United States and if I can say the EU plus, they will lead and dominate, the lenders and the World Bank and all the international institutions. So this is one of the advantage and disadvantage that BRICS can really offer. Second, that create of that degree of independency. So most of these countries, they need really to have, I would say, flexibility in their trade, in their investment, and promoting, local currencies and the transactions. So this, of course, this is a great goal, but this is will not really be accepted easy from Washington and from Trump, because Trump sees that as kind of insulting, and United States will retaliate and increase that level of sanctions and interest rate. So of course, the United States will not really stay calm and just watching these guys, coming to replace the United States from his dominations.
We haven't got too long left. I just want to bring Ginger Chapman back in. Consumers in some countries have been advised to stockpile items like food and aluminium goods ahead of any price hikes that could happen in a trade war with the United States. Are these policies, do you think, having big real-world effects on countries' inflation, other countries' inflation?
Yes, absolutely. As we all know, tariffs are called a hidden tax. Inflation is a hidden tax. And as other countries are trying to front load, stockpile goods before the tariffs take effect, this in itself is also causing economic ripples. One of the reasons economists believe that the tariffs have not affected markets just yet is for this exact reason. We saw in America, corporations, companies rushed to stockpile inventory before anticipated price increases. And this ties into another point your guest made, an excellent point. As far as the dollar being the world's reserve currency, the market will respond regardless of any leader's intentions. And what we are seeing is that gold is now becoming the de facto world reserve currency. Right now, gold is second to the dollar as a store of wealth. And we're seeing countries shift to gold as a backup reserve currency. Perhaps the BRICS are not as organized as they could be at this time with their replacement basket of currencies. And indeed, this front loading of inventory is right now masking the effects of the incoming tariff anticipated increases.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We're just out of time, but it's a fascinating discussion. Thank you very much to both of you, Dr. Ashraf Singer, international relations expert, joining us from California, and Ginger Chapman, joining us from Washington, lawyer and political analyst. Thank you very much for being here with us on the program. So as August 1st looms, global economies stand at a tipping point, caught between escalating tariffs, shifting alliances, and the search for stability in an increasingly fractured world order. That brings us to the end of Think Tank. Thank you very much for watching the program, and have a very good day.